Welcome back, fellow aviation lovers and enthusiasts. You're tuning into episode 14 of the FVACast. I'm your Captain Infinite Flight on today's leg, joined in the right-hand seat by my lovely First Officer, Captain Matt. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about you, dear Robert?
Pretty good. Just love putting those adjectives in there because, funness. Anyway, if you are so kind, everybody listening in today, to support what you hear, or if you desire to learn more, we have several social media outlets and venues. You can find us on our website, frontiervirtualairlinesif.weebly.com, our Instagram at FrontierVA, run by First Officer Matt here. And then you can find us on our Frontier Virtual community. The link will be in the description below. Daniel, make a note of that. And just feel free to join at any rate. You just come, hang out, have a good time. We'll talk about Frontier stuff, and it's pretty much just an aviation center. A lot of fun. Anyway, I do apologize personally for the lack of episodes. I know it's been, I think the last live stream that we did with the Infinite Flight Real World Air Traffic Control VAT guys was back in December of last year. So it's been a while, but we're back. We're strong. We're ready to go. And I know with the hype around the CRJ update, if you've been following that we got some Frontier fun plans. So we're going to talk about that today, as well as talking about some activity issues that maybe you, if you're outside of the podcast, are unaware of. But first, let's just start off. Matt, how's your day been?
It's been good. Just been playing some fun old games and just been, chilling. School got off today because of a blizzard, so...
A blizzard, man. And here in Denver, we just got up to about 30-mile-per-hour gusts. So, unfortunately, that didn't cancel school, but my school building that I go to actually had to evacuate because the winds were causing structural damage, so that was fun. But nothing as fun as a blizzard.
Sounds like a you problem.
You know it. That's college life for you. Even the winds want to try to help us out of school. Anyway. Sorry about that. Anyway, Matt, what are your thoughts on the current state of Frontier VA and our activity? I know that you kind of brought up the idea that we should be more active, and I know I'm not the best at the moment. I've got midterms literally this week. That's why we wanted to get this episode in before Tuesday, and it's just been so difficult me to get back, so I can't personally blame anybody, but from your standpoint as kind of an outsider looking in, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a mix of a lot of things. First off, school is a big part of it. I think also it's because Infinite Flight has, after the whole global thing kind of died off, people are used to it. This kind of became routine. So there's not much excitement for us to pull people in with anymore.
Yeah, and I think Drew, who was actually supposed to be here tonight, I know, Drew, you're listening. God bless you, man. And I know you're with the guys, but we'll miss you, and we'll see you next episode. But yeah, Drew did mention that ever since the global hype kind of calmed down, virtual airlines haven't been getting as much attention. It's a lot easier just to spawn in of your own free will and log whatever flight you're interested in. It's VAs are becoming a bit more restricted, so people aren't seeing them as much. I think with the big boom that helped, because when global came out, we just had about, I think it was like 50 to 60 pilots join within the next couple weeks, and
it was co-pilot today. It was big boom.
It's a big boom. Very true.
Boom.
And unfortunately, we have been, and I like to be completely transparent. You guys listening, you probably don't even care, but I like making sure that I'm a transparent leader, and we haven't not been as active as I wish we were. But I'm not that type of leader that's just like, oh, we're not active, let's just quit. I do want to make the attempt, successful or not, to bring this airline back. And so we have been talking about some ideas and some stuff that we could cut out, but I did want to ask you, Matt, so your view on the fact that global brought us a lot of people, and then that global hype kind of brought it down. What are your thoughts on the fact that maybe virtual airlines just aren't interesting people anymore, as opposed to the fact that Infinite Flight's just not handling, the amount of requests people want, so people are losing interest. Is it Infinite Flight's fault, or is it us as an airline? We should be doing something that we're not.
I think it is definitely Infinite Flight on one end, where people losing interest in it overall, and on the other end, I do think that part of it is virtual airlines are becoming more and more generic. There's not much things that really bring us make us unique compared to other airlines. I think if we want to get back up there, we're going to need to have some system that's unique that makes us special.
Exactly. And I know I'm kind of throwing this question, blindly at you, but did you have any ideas maybe on how we could do that? Or is there some sort of secret recipe that I'm not realizing?
5 scoops of sugar and 2 cups of flour.
There you go. You heard it here, folks. The secret to making your VA successful. It's trademarked, of course, so do give us credit.
Yeah, secret sauce, not the secret sauce.
Yeah, and if you want the secret sauce recipe, you'll have to ask Matt on his own time.
$5.
Anyway, I would have charged more, but that's just me. So Matt, I'm sure you've heard in the airline we've kind of been promoting it a bit. We've had hopes about it once it was announced, and to those who don't know, who aren't up to date on the Infinite Flight side of things, they are reworking the CRJ, which from my knowledge includes the CRJ 200, 700, 900, and 1000 variant, of which the Frontier Jet Express livery is going to be included on the CRJ 700. Matt, what do you think that's, if anything, that is going to impact us as an airline?
I also think it will not bring us as many people as we may think, because I think I am leaning more and more on the side that it is Infinite Flight that is the issue, because if you think about it, there's adding more and more planes. It's not like they're adding any more new features since Global, so I think that they're going to need to add features such as buttons in the cockpits or other things along those lines if we want to have a good future.
I think a lot of people share your concern, because I've seen people, questioning why, more aircraft are being added / more aircraft being adjusted when, hot topic features like 3D buildings, weather, clouds, better lighted airports are all, up there. And some people feel Flying Development Studios isn't listening. I'm not on that side. I think they're just getting to that part. But I do agree that I think, and I believe the developers themselves said that after this CRJ update, they will not be adding in a commercial aircraft. There have been speculation about whether that means GA is coming in military, or if that means, work on some of the highly requested airport lighting and such like that.
Yeah.
So
speaking of airport lighting, stuff like that is thinking about airport lighting and 3D buildings it's something that requires a lot of processing power, which is going to be another issue for any mobile simulator, considering that most means it's like things like the iPad Pro or the newer products are going to have the power, but the weaker stuff, like if they upgrade something that major, they're going to lose a big part of Infinite Flight's support.
Exactly, and I know some people will point to like X-Plane, the app version, and Aerofly Simulator that, those apps have 3D buildings, they have well-lit airports. So just from your viewpoint, because I know you fly X-Plane a lot, so kind of from that viewpoint, what do you think is keeping Infinite Flight from adding that, as opposed to, all these other mobile simulators that do have it? Is it just Flying Development Studios hasn't gotten around to it, or is there some sort of, with all the features that they currently have, it would just be too much? Or, this is all speculation, people, but what is your idea on that?
On one side, I think that Infinite Flight does have a lot of add features like some physics, some high resolution terrain that might limit it a little bit more. But on the other hand, I do think that there's plenty of room for improvement in the graphic side and the building side. And I think that FVACast is really just kind of holding back on it, cowering in the corner. Scary to do it.
I'm sure they'll do it when they're ready, and we do love your FDS. But I'm some hot topics that are going around, and hopefully after the CRJ does come out and we get some Frontier love, that we'll be able to see some increase in attention to detail, as I like to call it, in our Infinite Flight Simulator. All right, moving on, Matt, I was going to ask you, because you haven't really been a part of it, and I know maybe you've been, a little on the critical side of it, but what are your thoughts on Frontier Virtual ExpressJet and its correlation to the CRJ, and whether the CRJ will bring any more added activity to it?
Right now, I think that it is a subsidiary that more or less taking parts away from our main airline. So if we were to remove it, it would probably, if we would combine it with our overall Frontier brand, then it would allow us to get more pilots overall and allow everyone to have the other fleet.
And this is actually something that I did want to talk as well to. If any of you listening do have input on what I'm about to say, feel free to drop a comment or find us on the Infinite Flight forums and comment there. But Frontier Virtual Airlines has always stood for, or I created it to stand for, absolute realism, and I wanted to mimic the real world's Frontier Airlines, which of course don't fly the A318 and the upcoming CRJ, which both are going to have Frontier liveries. So not so much from my viewpoint, but I know some others in the airline are very huge on the stickler side of realism, which I admire, but it may prove a hamper here. What are your thoughts on maybe the fact that if we close out our subsidiary and bring the CRJ and A318 back into our mainline fleet, how that is going to impact our realistic factor, and we're going to go from a completely realistic-based airline to an airline that has outdated aircraft versus what we were meant to be. Because I know we do advertise ourselves as a realism-based airline. That's why we removed the Airbus A318 back when the A320 came out for realism's sake. And once the A321 with a new livery comes out, that's going to be for realism's sake. And we'll get to that in a minute. But Matt, what are your thoughts on the whole realistic factor and bringing in outdated aircraft?
Well, isn't there a U.S. Airways virtual?
Well, yeah. I mean, one could. Well, I think there's a American Airlines virtual that uses U.S. Airlines colors, just like I believe it's Delta Virtual Airlines uses Northwest colors. But I don't personally know if they self-subscribe to the realism factor, so that may be a reason why those liveries are still being used. In which case, do you think it would be a better business move / an activity move to drop that realism and just be like, anything with the Frontier brand that Frontier used to operate, we're going to throw in? I mean, that might help a lot of people. People might not be limited to Airbus only, because then we'll have the CRJ. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's really up to the pilots. I mean, I know pilots that would love to have realism, like myself, and I see others that just want to fly for fun. So, I mean, I'd say we keep it a little bit of both. Otherwise, we will lose one of our sides, which would be bad.
Yeah, so, and kind of what I was thinking along that line, because it's been a hot thing since the A321 was announced, and now it's like, do I juggle between the ExpressJet and airline subsidiary relationship, or do I just fold one out? My thoughts on that were, what if we just combine all of them and, for those who want realism, just fly the aircraft that are realistic. For those who want a little bit, more variety and who aren't, and I don't mean to sound offensive, but who aren't as sticklers to realism and who aren't so, single focused on realism.
Yeah, but I mean,
do you think that would be a good move?
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, there's only so much realism you can have when you're in a mobile simulator.
Well, true, but there's only so much realism you can have in any simulator, to be honest.
True.
So, for those listening in, that may be something that's coming out. We may decide to combine the fleet. That's not confirmed. That's just our talk. Our staff will have to convene on that. And for those of you who do like the realistic factor, please, absolutely, please post a comment below or message us in Slack. Presenting your side of the argument, why you think we shouldn't do it. Or for those who are for that change, present your argument why you think we should adopt the two. Yeah. All right, moving on. Just today, I believe it was, we announced, or Infinite Flight posted on their Instagram and their Facebook page that a new livery is coming out for the Airbus A321-200 series. That's the one with shark winglets. That Frontier's getting a new livery thanks to Ryan Vince, who I hope to have on the podcast one day, but currently he's turned us down, so we'll see how that goes. But he's the one who does the Frontier liveries. He puts them on the aircraft, so he has graciously put the Virginia the Wolf on the A321. Matt, what's your thoughts on how that's going to impact the airline once that comes out?
I think that because there are a lot of routes that are used for A321, and once we get that will definitely help the realism side of the argument. So people are probably going to be flying more, I'd hope.
I did talk with some of the other guys who were all DMing me last night, like, oh my gosh, Frontier's getting the A321, what's your thoughts on it? And I told them that before I started Frontier VA, I was an Airbus A321 heavy pilot like no other. That's the only aircraft I flew literally since I began, which was about 4 months before I started Frontier VA. That was the only aircraft I flew. And then once I got into the airline, I was like, okay, we don't have a livery for the A321, so I'm just going to drop it. But now, once that comes out from personal side, I'm absolutely going to be knocking flights out of that thing. Probably the route that I'll do the most is Denver to Las Vegas to Denver on that, because that was the actual animal, Virginia the Wolf. That was the actual animal I flew in real life on the A321 about 4 months ago. So that's going to be exciting for me to be able to get that realism in there as well. So, we've talked about the CRJ. We've talked about how activity might be a factor, how it might be, infinite flight one side or our side. We've talked about the impact the CRJ and A321 can have. Matt, as an outsider looking in, what would be something that infinite flight, if they added into the simulator, or they updated like airport lights or 3D buildings, what would be something that would be a redeeming factor? Like you look at that and you're like, okay, now they're a simulator that I can get behind, as opposed to, they're a great mobile simulator. Like at what point does the mobile kind of drop off and now you just got a good simulator? What would you like to see added?
There's two things. Both of them involve the cockpit. So either working or semi-functioning cockpit buttons, or a true flight management system, or a MCDU.
And I do believe I actually saw on the community that there is a third-party app that's in the works that's actually a fully working FMC that is going to be programmed to allow for VNAV and like all the stuff that the FMC would normally be able to handle. So it is a third-party app. It's not Infinite Flight themselves, but I know I'm going to be excited when that does come out because that will heighten the realism, even if it's not
One question.
From Infinite Flight itself.
Does it have SIDS and stars?
I believe they are planning it to be like a literal functioning FMC.
For what?
I don't know how far in development they are. I just saw a thread in passing, but I do know their goal is for it to be realistic.
Okay.
So if that interests you guys, make sure to head over to the Infinite Flight community forum. Just go ahead and type in, or just go to the third-party category, and you'll see them in there somewhere. So kudos to them if they can get that off. I know I would be willing to pay for that.
Yeah, and another thing I'd love to see, and I've talked to you about this before, is how the heck do you guys survive without a flight director?
We're a struggling nation, my friend, but we make live. We live and we learn. And for those of us who aren't, as heavy into the PC simulators, who maybe those of us who have never even gone in, it's not even a contest. That's just what we're used to. So, but I do understand the flight director would be something that would be nice. Infinite Flight. I hope you do add that one day.
Okay,
I know you'll make a lot of people happy.
Anyone who does not know what a flight director is, it is a bug. In the case of Boeing, it's a cross, and same thing with an Airbus, where the Airbus is green and on the Boeing it is, I believe, red. So what it pretty much does is it allows you to fly the plane as its autopilot would have, where it will show you what autopilot would do if it was flying. So it pretty much allows you to turn the plane, pitch it wherever, according to the flight plan.
So is that if you're flying manually and it will tell you that, or if you're flying, is that part of the autopilot? Is what you're saying?
It flies you can do it manually, but also the autopilot, when the autopilot's on, that will also be on most of the time.
There you go. Yeah, that does sound quite useful. Thankfully for me, I haven't gotten used to it enough for that to be something that I'm like, oh gosh, Infinite Flight, please put this in. But I know they're a good PC sim group that would look highly on that. So another thing, anything else you'd like to see added? And maybe looking. I mean, obviously we got the inside of the cockpit. Maybe looking on, on the bigger scale of anything relating to the planet at this point.
I know one thing. Better sounds are needed.
I think that's something we can all agree with.
Especially because and what annoys me is that's not that could be something that could be made in like a week or less. That's not even a big thing to work on. I mean,
well,
I've seen developers on other sim communities that they make it like this team is just devoted to it and they get it done really fast. It's called FMod. They get it done and they get sound from real aircraft and put them in there with sound files. And that'd be something that could be really easily be done in Infinite Flight. I don't know why they haven't done it yet.
Well, and I think one of the points you made is that it's a group that works on that, and maybe Infinite Flight doesn't have access to that group, so that 1 week stretch, stretches to months worth of work. I personally don't know how any of that works, so I could be completely off. But maybe it is just because they have so much stuff they're working on that it could be they haven't thought about it, or they just don't have the time. Maybe they don't have the staff to work on that, and to be honest, they probably have higher priorities than the sound. Like airports and because I don't actually know if I've ever seen a request for sound to be updated, but I do know that they probably have more pressing issues. But yeah, that is definitely something that maybe down the road, a couple years down the road, that'd be nice to see them in input.
Because you'd be surprised how far sound can go in aircraft. I mean, you wouldn't think it'd be something that would affect it all that much, but it goes a very long way. If there's an aircraft, say in a different simulator that does not have a good sound, I will ask for a refund.
Yeah, and I know
from
real life, flying on one of Frontier's A320s and then getting into the sim and flying, it's definitely a different sound. But of course, the mobile simulator does have its limitations. So who knows? Who knows the reason? We're not developers. We're not any of that. We don't know why they haven't installed it. So they'll get to it in due time. We're going to move on. We're almost out of time, so I just wanted to quickly talk about the website and the fact that Daniel, who is our YouTuber and technical director, he has made some changes to it, and if you'll notice, the biggest change is our route map. Before, we used to have the actual photo of Frontier Airlines route map. It was just a huge jungle of a mess, and nobody could really find out. So basically, they were all asking me, since I'm the residential Frontier expert, is this route valid? And I'd be like, yeah, to my knowledge. So we have completely, or I should say Daniel, because he deserves all the credit, he has completely rerouted that system. It's now a touch basis experience. You just go to the route system, click on the airport that you want to depart from, and it'll show all the destinations that we as an airline allow. So if you want to fly Denver to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, just click on that, and it should be there. And if it's not there, for example, Denver to JFK, Frontier doesn't fly that route, so neither do we. If you want to fly that route and it's not, and you click on Denver as a departure airport and you don't see JFK on that list, we don't allow it. And I have had some pilots who've gotten confused, thinking just because I see JFK, listed on the map means I can fly to it. It doesn't. It needs to be listed in the departure airport. So that's just a little bit of a tutorial on that, and I know it'll rest easier on Daniel.
JFK is not listed anywhere.
Yeah, I do believe though that places like LaGuardia and Long Island, there are no direct routes, but people think since it's on the list, Denver and LaGuardia are both technically on the map, so a nonstop flight is possible. But
actually, I'm on the map right now to show you its features. LaGuardia has direct from Atlanta, Cincinnati, Miami, and Denver.
It has direct to Denver?
Yep.
Man, okay. Maybe it's just Long Island I'm thinking of, but Last time I checked, it didn't. So Daniel must have updated that, or maybe I'm just going insane.
Or maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Insane. No, you're probably right. As you can see, even us as staff are still kind of learning our way through the rep map, but it is a definite blessing, and I'm very happy to Daniel for all the work he's done. If you have any questions on that as pilots, feel free to message us. We're there to help. Any final talk, Matt, before we close out today?
I think the quesadillas at Taco Bell are really good.
I just avoid Taco Bell at all costs anyway. But I'll trust you on that. And as to the schedule, folks, about our podcast, we do hope to be releasing more. Definitely not on a weekly basis, but because midterms, school, all that fun stuff that life likes to throw at you, it'll be a hindrance. I know from personal experience. Just doing this podcast episode was almost impossible because if we delayed it any other day, I would not have been able to do it. So do keep in mind that we are doing our best to get these episodes out to you, and we do apologize if they do come out on an irregular basis. But we do have the plan for them to keep coming. So. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for listening to the FVAcasts. We've arrived at our destination. Please remain seated with your earphones in until this episode comes to a full and complete stop. We thank you for choosing the FVAcast, as we know you have many other podcasts to listen to. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome aboard. If it's not, we thank you for choosing us again. I'm your captain and host, and this was Matt, my first officer, on today's episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. We do appreciate it. Clear skies and smooth landings, everyone. We'll see you next episode. I was like, man, if the blooper reel is going to be about the birds, we should talk about why.
The birds and the bees.
The birds and the bees. There's a reason they call it the birds. Oh, great. He's recording. If this isn't blooper material, I have no idea what is. Anyway, for those tuning in, sorry about that. If you heard any birds in the background, a very young couple, a very naive couple of birds is just outside my window. Don't worry, I will have the landlord move them, but yeah, I could have done without the sound effects, but yeah, pretty much. The birds and the bees. Please tell me this isn't still recording. I love the birds and the bees. I love the birds and the bees. Donna, Donna, Donna. I'm gonna kill the birds, I swear. Shut up.
But they're pregnant.
I freaking swear.
Let me share my screen. You pick the aircraft.
Okay, Daniel, record us at your will, but be aware that I'm not in the podcast mindset, so everything I say is gonna be weird. And this is why I prefer infinite flights loading. I get in within 5 minutes. Finally, it's something on you.
Yeah, but except, this kind of has...